Welcome to How to Level Up. That's the name I came up with for this show. We might change it 100 more times between now and posting it, but that's where we are at now.
We could potentially level up the name of How to Level Up.
It just could happen. Okay. My name is Zach Shipley. I'm here with Lisa Packard, our team listing specialist. And Lisa, what I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about is how does a house get listed for sale in the state of Wisconsin? What are the things that a potential seller should be looking out for? And really, like, what's the thing that you do to help people set up for success? So I guess the first things first. How is the seller's market right now?
Oh, sure. Well, it's really interesting. I was actually listening to some national news on the market just this morning. And what we're seeing nationally is sales are down, days on market are up, prices are remaining stable. And weirdly enough, like when you look at the whole picture nationally, it's actually easier right now to sell a luxury listing than it is to sell like a bread and butter, kind of a mid-price house. Now that's nationally. Now
Milwaukee's more of a meat and potatoes market.
That's true. And I think, what we're seeing, not just my listings, but yours and Dawn's and the rest of the team is we are not seeing any difficulty in selling any listings. I know
not really.
our team has gotten, I think since the year started, anywhere from 2 to 28 offers.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking early 2025.
Yeah.
This is still, we've been in a seller's market for a decade.
Yeah.
Sounds like it's.
Yeah.
It really has been no. There's been ups and downs, but realistically, we're still in a point where there's not enough homes to satisfy.
Right.
I think it's really interesting to kind of come back to that idea that luxury listings or luxury properties are selling faster, because that's definitely not been the case in the past.
No.
If you have $1 million plus home, obviously the pool of buyers is much, much smaller. So you're not going to get 50 people through an open house unless you just unless people just want to see it. They're not necessarily, doesn't mean there's 50 qualified buyers for it.
Right. Well, and what's the reason that the luxury is doing so well nationally is because those buyers are more insulated from the economics right now. So there's a lot of consumer sentiment is real bad right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of uncertainty. The Fed is holding steady because it's even more uncertain right now than regular uncertain.
Yeah.
So those buyers who are at those price points, they don't care that the interest rate is 7. Like a lot of those buyers are buying with cash, or they're buying in a different way.
They're unaffected by it. The difference between 3 and 5% or 7% is academic to them because they're not taking out a loan.
Right.
They maybe don't even have to sell the house they have in order to buy that because it's a second home.
Exactly.
Or they have the cash on hand.
Yeah, or they have another $1 million home they're going to sell, and they have all of the equity in that, or maybe they own it outright and now they're going to upgrade to a $2 million home.
Interesting.
But meanwhile, you've got the people who are kind of like the people who are sitting with maybe like a $500,000 house, which is a nice house. And those people are going to feel that interest rate really a lot if they're, if they're having buyers who are not buying with cash. I am seeing a lot of cash buyers though.
Yeah, it's becoming more common.
Yeah.
And I would say that one of the things that's always been interesting for the Milwaukee market versus the coast, just because we do hear a lot of national news and it's not necessarily as catered to us. One of the reasons we do these talks is because the Milwaukee market does have a much lower barrier to entry for a price point. If someone is looking to buy a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath house in Oakland, California, they're looking at $1.5 million, maybe even $2 million. They want to buy that in Brookfield, $300,000. they want to buy that in West Dallas, maybe even 250. I mean,
it's going to need a lot of work at 250.
but still,
Yes.
but that's possible.
Yes, you can.
We looked at a listing, just for fun in like San Diego yesterday. It was like a 2-bedroom house for $600,000. Like this is nuts.
Yeah. I have friends who just moved back here from San Francisco, and they had a 1-bedroom house in San Francisco, and that's, I'm sure it'll sell near $1 million. And it's like, oh, we can buy like a castle here for that.
Yeah,
it's cool.
So that's another reason why folks are coming to this area, if they're doing their job remotely, or they can find employment here, even taking maybe a cost of living pay cut here, their dollar's still just going to go so much further.
Yes.
Yes. So that's great for a buyer who wants to get some value. However, we're talking about sellers here today.
We are. Yes.
So let's say I am looking to sell my house sometime this year, and I call you up and I say, Lisa, I'm ready to sell. What's the first thing you're going to ask me? Where's our conversation start?
Okay. Well, I definitely want to hear about your house, and I want to know, because we do a lot of our pre-research before we go out to meet you. Like we'll do a lot of looking online. Like maybe I'm going to look at, did your house sell before? Like when you bought it, are the pictures on there? Like, what info can I find? I want to look at all of the data that I can find online, but I want to hear about what you've done, because I typically can't see that. There's not be pictures of your new kitchen online. So I want to hear a little bit about your house. I want to hear about your time frame. But most importantly, I want to schedule a time to meet, actually come out to your house, because it's hard for us to put a realistic value on something that we haven't seen with our own eyeballs and kind of experienced. So a little bit of info gathering, but it's critical that we set an appointment and meet in person and actually look at your house. So
you get out the house, and it's more than just walking around and taking some photos, even with a professional.
Right.
So when you go into someone's house, let's say that it's clean. It's like they've done some updates. There's no defects that are obvious. What should be their punch list? Like, should they be looking at like any unfinished projects, or any are there any small improvements that someone should make before listing?
It depends. I am a minimalist with this. I don't like for people to like go around and remodel their house for someone else. So, and especially in this market that we're in, where in the Milwaukee area, it really is more of a seller's market right now. So I don't want people spending a bunch of money up front. Now, certainly if, like let's say we go in and like the carpet is clearly like all stained up. Okay, well, it feels kind of bad to put new carpet in, because a lot of people don't even like carpet. So what we might do is, clean it as best we can. Maybe they're going to hire a carpet cleaner or like rent one of those carpet shampooers. But we might put into our advertising that the seller is offering a credit for new flooring, because then the buyer can come in and pick out whatever they want, and you haven't spent the money. And we can probably in this market get away with offering a lower credit than how much you would spend actually putting new carpet in that somebody might come and rip out. Yeah,
and to a potential buyer, that's like just giving them a gift card. Say, here, you can pick out whatever present you want with this, and the seller doesn't have to do it. So, are you finding that sellers are having to do a lot of stuff to get ready, or?
No, but some of them choose to. And if you want to do something and it's not, thousands of dollars, I'm never going to say, no, don't do that. I mean, the last 2 condo listings I had, there were like itty bitty things, like a bathroom ceiling needed repainted, and my seller just felt better having that done. So that's great. And so I hooked her up with a contractor who was able to come out and do it very quickly and inexpensively. And that's a benefit of working with a realtor, because we have those contacts for you. And then one of my other listings, like he didn't let the paint on his windows was chipping, and he felt bad about that. So, okay, great. Let me get my guy out there, going to fix that up. So,
it's interesting you mentioned that, because paint chipping it is a cosmetic thing. It doesn't seem like that big a deal. However, something small like that can limit your actual pool of buyers.
Right.
Because VA loans don't want to see paint chipping. FHA loans don't want to see paint chipping. Most people don't want to see paint chipping. But actually, like, if you don't have that fixed or you don't have that covered up, repainted, whatever, then that can actually limit the kinds of people who can actually even make an offer on the house.
Right. Well, and let's say, like, what if something's legitimately wrong? Another example, like one of those new listings, I got there for the first day of showings and the furnace was leaking. Okay, well, that we're going to fix.
Yeah.
So, if you have a mechanical defect, you need to fix it or disclose it. Like, and unfortunately, maybe your dishwasher doesn't work, which is relatable for Zach right now. That's something like, okay, can you get away without a dishwasher? Yeah. So that might be like, treat it like the carpet and like, hey, we'll offer a credit, but I'm not fixing my, 8-year-old dishwasher or whatever it is.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like, what's the value of the thing that how's that impacting you? How much work is it to take care of it? But there's an important word to use: disclose.
Right.
It's always important to disclose everything you know about the house. Being very honest up front. No one ever got in trouble for being honest.
No. And it's important for sellers to know that they can't, like, we have to disclose things. They can't be like, don't tell anyone my dishwasher doesn't work. Like, no, we have to. So you might as well disclose it.
If I know it, I got to say something.
Yes.
There's a place we can fill out in writing, or maybe we're just verbally telling people ahead of time, hey, we're aware there's seepage in the basement, or we're aware that the roof is old. Any kind of thing that might have an impact on what the perceived value of the house is needs to be disclosed.
Right. Absolutely. So yeah, you need to, you don't have to necessarily fix everything, but you do have to disclose things. And if there's something that you don't want to, have to say is wrong with your house, then okay, let me hook you up with somebody and we get it fixed. Okay.
So in the next step, you're putting together all that paperwork. You're figuring out what's the best value for the house. What's the price point it should be set at? Is there any strategy you use when pricing a house?
Oh, absolutely. So I do things differently. Besides being a Level Up agent and a Keller Williams agent, I participate in what's called the 72 Sold program. And so I do take a different approach to how I price my listings, how I show my listings, how I market them, everything. So what 99% of realtors will do, and it's not that it's necessarily wrong, but what they'll do is they're going to look backwards. So they're going to do their research looking backwards. They're going to look at homes that have sold within, ideally the past 3 months, maybe probably nothing older than 6 months. And they're going to make a price recommendation based on looking backwards at what those houses closed at. And I still do like to know that information. So I'm still going to look at that.
That's what an appraiser is going to look at.
Exactly. So I am going to be aware of that. I am going to collect that information as well. But what's more important to me and how the 72 Sold program works is we want to position the price of the home in line with what's on the market right now. Because when you think about it, buyers who are shopping right now, they can't go buy that house from 2 months ago.
They probably would have loved to have.
They would have loved to.
They may even tried to.
They might have. So they're shopping your house as well as the houses that are out there right now that are for sale. It's kind of like, if you are buying a new TV, you might go into Best Buy, but then have your phone up and be on Amazon and be like, let's price check that sucker.
Yeah.
So pricing homes is do it the same way. So
that also means checking your work all the way up until basically the day of your listing, because you never know. It's like, oh, we're listing on Thursday, but Wednesday this other house came up. How are we gonna? It's like this one's a lower price. It's a bigger house.
Right. Yeah. So if we sign a contract today, like Zach, you have me over today, and we sign a contract, but it's starting in 2 weeks. It's like, okay, well, this is the price it is today. But I'm going to be in touch with you, right up to the minute with any new information that might adjust our strategy either upwards or downwards.
Yeah.
Because I've like sometimes you're like, okay, I want to sell, but I'm not ready yet. I want to, do a couple things. Like I had a seller I met with in the fall, and we're looking at what was available. It's like, okay, it looks like 300 might be pretty good. 300,000, not $300. And
Yeah.
but then, just the way things ended up, we ended up listing it in January. And when we looked at what was on the market in January, it's like 325 looks pretty good. And that price worked great.
Yeah.
So,
And you bring up something very interesting, that the seasonality of the market. We always do the best we can with what we have available, and you shouldn't let the season dictate your timeline too much. But if you have the ability to hold off and maybe list in spring, or if you have the ability to hold off and maybe look to buy in fall or something like that, it can make a huge difference. Again, it's anecdotal, but I recall looking at a property this past fall that was, it was a recently remodeled property in New Berlin, which is a suburb of Milwaukee that has a very very well regarded and very low supply.
Yes.
And this house, it was on the market. I showed it to some clients of mine from out of town, and they were not quite ready yet. And I told them, hey, we'll just keep an eye on it. And then sure enough, they took it off the market, relisted in spring. And so and then that first weekend it was available, I was shoulder to shoulder in the open house.
Oh yeah.
And then it's the same house. Nothing changed between October and February, except the fact that so many more people were shopping in February.
Yep.
And now this house that didn't sell, was on the market for like more than 60 days, now suddenly had a rush of people looking to buy it. In the first weekend, it was available again.
Yeah, and I've seen that too. But now, when you say spring, it's important for people to know that real estate spring starts January 2nd.
Yes. Yeah.
So when Zach says list in spring, he means anytime after January 1st.
Today, I mean, we're filming this in February. Today is actually like the first 50-degree day we've had, and yet we're already really spring market.
We've been in spring market for a couple of weeks now, in my opinion. And yeah, it never fails. Every year, right after New Year's, phone starts ringing with buyer clients too.
And this will realistically last all the way until maybe the 4th of July.
Well, no, okay. Last 2 years, the market has gotten really weird, like mid-June. So if you're a seller out there and you're like, okay, I want to sell my house, if we can get it on the market by at least, I'd hate to even push it into June. Get it out there. Call me right now.
Yeah.
Call me, and if we can do it now, anywhere now until like the first week of June, we have a much better outlook. Things have been really weird the past 2 years, and who knows, it could be different. Like if interest rates have some movement in the direction we want, maybe it'll be different. I don't know.
I also see there being some strategy around just knowing full well, obviously every client's different, every buyer need, every seller needs is different. However, I look at, there being just a lot of people who, what their needs are for buying a new property means which school district are they in, where are their kids, what elementary, high school, et cetera, are they close enough to this thing for activities? And so if I'm looking at a larger house, that would be better to, the 1-bedroom house, maybe not good for a family of 4 or 5.
No.
But if you got a 4-bedroom house, I try to say like, hey, let's get this on the market in that summertime. Like if you're listing in August, it's too late, because at this point, like the kids have already signed up for school. They're already good. People are not looking to move, in general, like during that school year, because they don't want to upset those kids or try to change schools mid-year. But if you can get them into like one of these suburbs that has a well-regarded school district, then like that's the getting them in June, getting them in May, so that they know they can register for school the next year is really key.
Yeah, that would definitely be preferred. Like if you have one of those larger size, multi-bedroom type houses, like getting it out there while people are school district shopping is a good thing. That being said, like the amount of buyers is never zero.
Yeah.
So like if life circumstances happen, like sometimes you can't choose why you're selling. Like, someone loses a job, or like maybe like more positively, you get an opportunity for a job out of state or out of the area. It's like, okay, but now I have to sell my house and it's August, September, November. Like, can you do it? Yeah, absolutely. You can sell a house any time of the year. The important thing is that your agent, which is hopefully me or Zach or Dawn or Chelsea, that we are going to provide you with the important market information at that particular time of the year so that you can price your house to that particular moment in that market, and then you'll sell. Like if you can sell a house any time of the year as long as you've priced it appropriately for what's going on in that market at that time.
And now I just want to kind of talk about some like little tiny tips, some things I mentioned, and you can certainly add into this. I have found that when preparing a house for sale, and especially preparing for showings to get people, when people start coming into the house, old is not broken. Like dated is okay, but it can't be dirty.
Yes.
So like the grandma's house, like there's a lot of charm in grandma's house. Like the dated countertops, even like old appliances, stuff like that. If you have an olive green refrigerator, it's like you can tell this thing. Harry Truman was president when they bought this fridge, but it was still but it's old, but it has its charm.
Right.
But if you open up that fridge and it looks yucky, then now suddenly you go like, oh, what does the rest of the house look like? If this is what the kitchen looks like,
people don't need it to be updated necessarily. They feel good when it looks cared for. So I've listed a number of houses that had almost no updates to them aesthetically, but they were so clean, and like the service record on the furnace was filled out, like they had like written on the side every time they changed the filter. It's like people love that. It's like, oh, I know that I'm coming into a home that has been so well cared for. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
People like that much better than something that's been like kind of like haphazardly handyman special remodeled.
And that also means, again, opening up to the largest pool of buyers, because there's many times I meet with a buyer for the first time, and I ask them about, are they handy? Are they willing to do a little work? And universally, almost everyone says, oh yeah, I'm into doing a fixer-upper. But fixer-upper does not mean excavation around the basement. Fixer-upper does not mean I'm willing to put on a new roof. Fixer-upper means like, yeah, I would put in a different floor, or maybe
like I'll take down some wallpaper,
track lighting.
Like people, yes, people are usually like, what I don't work with as many buyers anymore, but when I did, like there was a time I worked with many buyers, and they are all like, well, ugly's fine as long as it's sound.
Yeah.
Like they don't care if it's like HGTV ready. Like, is the house not going to fall down?
And that's hard to portray through the photos online.
Yeah.
So it's another thing is like, if you can get a hold of all of your service records, if you know how old your furnace is, how old your roof is, providing that information, all that information up front to your agent so that they could put that on file, because the buyer agent inevitably gets that question, how old's the roof? And so then if I get that question, I go like, well, I don't know. It's like, well, why don't you know? So get all that information ahead of time and get it to your agent so that they can let people know up front. They know exactly what is going on in the house.
Oh yeah, because yes, inevitably, like it's a good thing if a buyer is in your house and they're asking questions. That means they're interested.
They care.
If they didn't ask any questions at all while they're at the house, they probably aren't into it. So we like questions. So we do like to have some answers. So yes, having a file of all of your house projects is great. Being able to crack that out when I come see you is wonderful. Some things we can get dates off of, like Zach and I can walk up to most water heaters and figure out how old they are. But yeah, if you have service records, if you know when you did improvements, that's fantastic, because buyers love to have that information. I mean, if they have a home inspection, the home inspector is going to be able to put ages on the mechanicals. But buyers don't like to wait till the home inspection to know those answers.
Yeah, and that's if they can get the accepted offer to get to the home inspection.
Right.
Because a lot of times we're making the decision on whether or not we write an offer on this house based on that first showing. We're not going to get a second showing. We definitely don't get get an inspection before we write an offer. If a house is being sold as is, and that's a really common thing, especially in case where someone did have to move out of state, they don't have the opportunity to make repairs or changes, or if it's being sold as an estate, so the person who lived there maybe has passed, or even just moved into like an assisted living thing. If it's an older person, there's a lot of reasons why a house might be sold as is. And so when a property is being sold as is, what can a buyer expect then? Like, how are you representing your seller when you're saying like, hey, this is it, this is the house?
Sure. Well, a lot of people who are selling a house as is still have some information. So any information you have, even if you want to sell the house as is, let's get that information. If you truly know nothing, like your, Aunt Hilda passed it to you and you didn't even know you had an Aunt Hilda, like, okay, fine. But just because a house is being marketed as is doesn't mean a buyer can't write an offer with a home inspection contingency. So as is doesn't mean you can't inspect it. In fact, if we're representing a buyer who is buying an as is home, like that's even more reason to like, well, you really probably should. Like you should always get an inspection. You really should. But in that case, like when there's just really no background knowledge, or like maybe it's a foreclosure.
They don't provide a real estate condition report.
Yeah.
Because in the state of Wisconsin, there's a real estate condition report, and where a seller's supposed to list out all the things that they're aware of the house. Is there defects in the roof, defects in the basement, et cetera. And so if someone never lived in the house because it was, it's passed on, they either will just say, no, I'm not aware, or they may refuse to fill it out entirely, and you just get a waiver. So just knowing that you don't know.
Exactly. Now, and for the sellers, it's like, okay, you can say that your house is for sale as is, and that's okay. And the buyer can write an inspection contingency into their offer. That is absolutely their right to do so. And then it's absolutely your right as the seller to say, no, I'm not going to fix anything.
Yeah.
So
the home inspection may just be for informational purposes. But ultimately, like, I think the sellers who are most flexible are the ones that are most likely to get exactly what they want out of the sale. You would think that the as is sale would be like, nope, I don't want to do anything. They say anything. And again, there's lots of good reasons for that.
Yeah.
But I would say that the ones who are willing to, give a little, and they might get a little in return, and they're of course far less likely to be to have a negative experience after closing day, and having a, like, for instance, they didn't disclose a defect or something like that. Again, no one ever got in trouble for telling the truth.
Yeah.
Well,
and there are situations that can come up, things that are found like in that as is or any house sale where it's like, okay, here's an issue that now we can't get our loan or we can't get our insurance. So, if you're getting a loan on a house, the house has to be livable.
Yeah.
So if
the roof is toast, it's 25 years old, there's like 2 layers on it, there's leaks, no insurance company is going to give you insurance on it. So you as the representative of the seller have to tell them, hey, you can sell as is, but also you probably can't sell it at this price as is. So we need to figure something out.
Yeah. Or, like in the case of my listing that came up and the furnace was leaking. It's like, okay, well, we kind of like, a buyer can't get a loan and have a non-working furnace.
Yeah.
Like a furnace has to work. You have to have a functioning bathroom. You can't have like the old fuse box. The electrical has to be circuit breakers. So like there's certain things that have to be that way if you want to be able to have buyers who are getting a loan shop for your house.
Yeah.
Now you can, like, if you have a house that has some really funky stuff going on, you can sell it and you can sell it as is, but you're going to need cash buyers. So you're going to need to price it at a attractive price that's going to bring in people who can pay cash for it, knowing that they're going to have to turn around and put even more cash into it to make it habitable.
I recall a time where we had a client who needed to move out of state because they got a job offer, an opportunity, but they were in the middle of a remodel. So a couple rooms looked dynamite, but the kitchen was down to the studs. They didn't really have, they'd just been working through it. They had kind of a camp kitchen put in. So they had like a little sink and then like a microwave or a hot plate, and that was like they were just cooking all their meals doing that. But there were no cabinets or anything like that. But they needed to sell, and what we ended up doing is of course we had to disclose up front, hey, there's no working kitchen. When we accepted an offer, we ended up working out a deal with the buyer. Again, this is probably a one-time only, never going to happen again thing, where the buyer was able to come in and put in just enough work to get that kitchen to meet the appraisal. Okay. Because they said like, hey, we need to have at least one cabinet, the sink needs to be working, and there was something else that needed to be done. So we all kind of met together and we're like, okay, let's put this up and let's fix this, and that'll be good enough. Because the buyer was ready to take on all that work. They were willing to do the kitchen, but the bank was not willing to let them do that after closing. They knew to have something.
Exactly. No, but that's like, what a creative solution. Like this was a problem and you guys found a way to still get that deal to close. That's awesome. And that's creativity and partnership and working together. And that's pretty cool. And we'll see that I've had listings where my seller has accepted an offer from an FHA buyer or a VA buyer. And those loan types, we're talking about the peeling paint. Like if there's peeling paint, the bank is going to say, can't close this house. We can't sell this, we can't close that loan. A lot of times the buyers and the agents will come together and figure out a creative solution, which is great. And
sometimes they seem like such silly things like, oh, well, they need to have smoke detectors on every floor. Well, let's just go get some smoke detectors. They don't, we don't have to buy like the super nice, Wi-Fi ones. No. We just got to go to the big box hardware store.
Get the 4-pack.
Get the 4-pack. Put one in this room. Put one in that room. Let's get this done, because ultimately, like, we're all in this together.
Yes.
Like we want to help people and we want them to be happy at the end of it. And so we have a core belief, a core tenet of our company is win-win or no deal.
Right.
And it sounds corny, but I truly believe it. It's like I don't want anyone to be unhappy or disappointed at the end of the transaction and feel like that. Even just to call it a transaction sounds a little cold, because it's like it's a transaction for me because I do it every week. Yep. But to them, it's like this is life-changing. They might do this only once or twice ever.
Oh, right. And we find a way to make it happen. Like this fall, it was closing day and I was at a house mowing the lawn.
Yeah. Well, I've moved furniture out. I've arranged for trash outs. I've been there at like 10 o'clock at night getting stuff ready. It's like it's not a bragging point. It's not something I like to do, but it also just means that, like, well, if this is what it takes to get it done,
we're going to get it
we
done.
roll up our sleeves, we get it done.
Absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. Whatever it takes, we'll put on our magician hats.
Yeah. So it's I feel like we got like a pretty good overview of what needs to be done in order to get a house listed for sale. We didn't even touch the marketing. We'll probably come back and we'll talk about that next time. But Lisa, I really appreciate you taking all the time to let all the people at home know everything about getting a house ready for sale. And we'll come back and we'll talk about marketing next time.
That sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and keep an eye on all of our social media. We're live on, obviously, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. You're welcome to find us and follow us. And if you're looking to buy or sell in the Milwaukee area, you know who to call.